Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about our comic book movies ages. So I've been wondering something for quite a while. See, I don't read comics, so therefore I don't know what some characters look like, but I watch a lot of animated stuff, so therefore I do know what characters look like. And well, I'm starting to notice there's a lot less older people in these live action comic adaptations, and there's more younger people. But why? I have a theory for that. But let's give a couple of examples of some of these like age swapped characters, which is quite baffling in everything. Like a couple of ones you see right here, you have Aunt May, you have Madam Web, you have Ezekiel, you have no, yeah, I think it is Ezekiel. You have Deacon Frost and Justin Hammer and Martha. Oh, actually, Superman parents. And have you see something different? They're younger versions now, and either in animation or like live action. When they used to be like geriatric old people and stuff. And it's to the point where some people don't even recognize these characters anymore. And yes, there are still old people in comics and still characters that are older and stuff like that. Not everybody's being age swapped, but a good number of people are. And when they are, you don't get the same feels as you do when you used to watch the classic stuff in the older movies or older TV shows or read the comics and stuff. You have that of Madam Web. She's an older woman who is blind and can see the future. Sometimes she has magical powers. But now for her live action movie adaptation, she's a whole lot younger. And I still can't remember the actress name. I said it wrong in my last video. Um, is it Dakota Johnson? I don't know her name. I don't want to watch nothing she's in, but she's somebody. But she's younger. And, she looks completely different than what she used to in like the classic stuff. Then you have Deacon Frost from the first Blade movie. Now, I didn't read no comics. I didn't even know this dude's like older and stuff. And because, when I watched the movie, I'm like, okay, well, he must be a young guy, right? Nope, he's actually an older man. Now, somebody I am familiar with is Justin Hammer. I remember him from the animated series of back in the 90s. And he is a old man. But for Iron Man 2, they made him younger and more like Tony Stark. Then, of course, there's Hot Aunt May. Aunt May is Peter's aunt, but she looks like she's his grandmother. But she's his aunt, and she raised him when his parents died. And, in the first, like, Sam Raimi movies, she was an old woman. But then starting with the Mark Webb movies, even though she was older, she was slightly older. But then in the MCU, we got Hot Aunt May. And she's as young can be. Then, who else? Ezekiel, he's also from the Madam Web movie. And he's younger in the movie. But oh wait, when you look at him, a picture of him in the comments, oh wait, he's older and stuff. And I'm trying to think of somebody. I can't remember his name. But he's in the MCU and he's younger too now. Zemo, I think his name is. I'm pretty sure that dude's old in the comics, And of course, in the MCU, he's younger. Then, of course, let's go all the way back to Superman's parents. And Smallville, actually. And the parents in Smallville were, well, even though they were older people, they were young, older people. But in the comics, they are about as old can be. It's to the point where it's kind of like Aunt May. You think Superman's parents are his grandparents, but they're not. Um, and so, like, yeah. Oh, wait, I got somebody else. April O'Neil from Ninja Turtles. She's a grown adult in her 30s or 20s, something like that in the comics. But now in animation, she's always depicted now as a teenager. And she's been depicted as a teenager 3 times. So, what exactly is going on? Why are all these older characters now getting de-aged and stuff? Well, let's find out why exactly they are older in the comics. Most of these silver-haired people are old in the comics. But why exactly? Well, when it comes to old people are supposed to be, or they're depicted as sweet and wise. They're supposed to convey knowledge to that of our heroes and stuff. The ones that are like, the nice people, they are supposed to guide our heroes through their life, their civilian lives and stuff. And they're supposed to, like, even some of them that know about the superhero identity, they're supposed to once again guide them through life, because it's hard being a superhero. It's hard living through life. It's hard being an adult. When you're a kid, you're living it up. When you're a teenager, you're in the crossroads. And then when you're an adult, you're pretty much just doomed. And you always need somebody to give you that verbal helping hand. They're supposed to pick you up and they're supposed to teach you life lessons as a child and an adult before you get to that, or child and teenager before you get to an adult. And even when you are an adult, you still need that like guidance, that wisdom. And that's what older people convey. And that's one reason why they're older in the comics. You have the Kents who've always looked like his grandparents no matter what age he is. And they're the most loving parents you could find on Earth. And the alien did find those parents. And they made him the man he is today, trying to, give him that sense of wisdom and guide him through life that made him a better hero and stuff. Same with Peter Parker when it comes to that of Aunt May. And when it comes to older villains, well, they also have wisdom in crime. They're, cause it's like they've lived a life. They've seen a lot. They've observed a lot, and they know how to cheat the system, and they know how to corrupt and everything. It makes for a really interesting antagonist instead of a young 30, 40 something year old who is still wet behind the ears and still learning. And so it just makes for a much more compelling villain. But why are they getting de-aged now? Well, there's a couple of theories I have. One theory has to do with like the Highlander television series, not television series, but the movie series. I'm going to use Highlander as an example. So, in the movie series, we have Connor MacLeod. And I never knew about Connor MacLeod because I started with season 3 of the television series, and that has Duncan MacLeod. But when I started watching the movies, I'm like, oh, there's a Connor? I didn't know that. And then when I watched the first episode of the TV series, I'm like, oh, so there is a Connor. Anyways, in the first movie, both villain and hero are around the same age. They're either in their late 20s or somewhere in their 30s, and they can hold their own in a fight, especially when it comes to fighting with the sword. Then you get to the second movie. And in the second movie, Connor, the hero, is still a younger, the guy playing him is still a younger man, but now his villain is older. And well, the fight scenes are not that impressive because the older actor can barely lift his hands up or arms up to throw that sword. Then you get to the third movie and you start to see something different. See, Christopher Lambert always did his own stunts and still did to even the third movie. But he was starting to get older now. And because of that, now the villain looks a slightly younger. but the actor's getting older. And well, the fight scene didn't look all that impressive with the sword choreography. And that's also because of Hollywood in the 80s and the 90s. Back then, if you had to fight with like a sword or do martial arts or dance or play an instrument, they really didn't teach you that much. And they just like, okay, whatever, just like do your best in the movie and stuff. Now they take things more seriously where you look like a professional. And then you get to the fourth movie. Now, in the fourth movie, you had two heroes, one group of villains. And even though the villain was a little bit older, he could still swing that sword. But now the two heroes are Duncan and Connor. And Connor the actor is much older now. And he's not doing his own stunts because there's one part in the movie where the two heroes fight each other and you can clearly see one of them is a stunt actor. But he's doing his best to swing that sword because this is his last outing. But you can see he's a lot slower now. Same thing happens in wrestling. In wrestling, when these wrestlers start that, once you hit 40, your body's pretty much just done. You can barely do anything. I know this from example and stuff. And so like you can barely get your arms up, you can barely kick your legs, you can barely do anything. Lose my voice. And so the body just starts to like slow down and it doesn't look as impressive and stuff. And so that could be a factor as to why they cast younger people instead of older people in these movies when it comes to like villains, because you have to be able to fight your younger hero in the movie. And you can't really do that when you're like older looking like a grandpa and stuff. But there's a movie called Underworld. And in that movie, they had Victor. And Victor was an older man. And he actually fought in the movie. But they filmed it in a way to where you couldn't tell sometimes if it was the actor or the stunt double. You can always tell when it's the stunt double because he moves faster, but they did the fight scenes in a way to where the older actor could actually move his arms and look impressive. Same thing happened in the Star Wars movie, I think Revenge of the Sith or something like that. Samuel L. Jackson and whoever plays Palpatine, they're older men. And Samuel said they styled it in a way to where it made it look like these two old men can swing a lightsaber and everything, because it's hard to get your arms up at that certain age and stuff. And so yeah, that is probably one reason why they cast younger people to play villains and stuff, is because it's a lot harder for older people. But there's another reason it could be, and that is simple fact they're old. And young people do not like old people. When you're young as a kid, an older person is your authority figure. They're your guardian. They're your teacher. Parents, whatever. They set rules for you and you don't like rules. So you look at them as like a villain. But as you start to get older yourself, you still don't like old people for the most part. They move slow, they talk slow, you have to do things for them. And so people have this stigma of not liking older people and stuff. And so when you make these comic book movies and it's supposed to attract a younger audience, a younger person is not gonna see an older person on screen. So they de-age them and make them a whole lot younger and stuff. And because I used to be that same way. There's a show called Sliders, and there they had an older man, the professor, and I could not appreciate him back then because I was younger. And when his character died and they brought in a younger female, I was happy because she was a younger hot female. But as I've gotten older, I realized the professor was one of the best parts of that show, and I learned to appreciate him a whole lot more. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.